welcome to Praise to the King of Kings, heralding the glory of God and the Lordship of Jesus Christ over all of life and all the world. An Arrow in the Quiver, July 29th, 2019. I have exciting news. My wife and I have had our first child. Everly Faith Taves arrived on July 17th. Now don't worry, this post won't only be a personal update. This past week has been a blur, and my heart is filled to bursting in the best way possible. This little one has brought me so much joy, and I am so excited to teach her about Christ. This birth announcement serves as a good occasion to talk some strategy. This blog, and hopefully my life, has been aimed at proclaiming the Lordship of Christ over all things and seeking to advance the kingdom, bringing all things under the feet of Jesus in victory. So here's a question. How does this new arrival play into this goal? How does raising children relate to the mission? Answer: it is absolutely central. Here's how I view this. In the Garden of Eden, God commanded Adam and Eve to be fruitful and multiply, to fill the earth and subdue it. Their calling was to fill the earth with God's image bearers, taking dominion over the earth, bringing order out of chaos, and imitating their Maker in this way. In Deuteronomy 6, we get a picture of what a godly household looks like. God's people are called to have God's law on their doorposts, as frontlets between their eyes, whatever those are, and written on their hands and hearts. The picture we get is of a home that is completely saturated with God's law because the members of the home love God with all their heart, soul, mind, and strength. The faithful household was to teach God's law to their children when they sit, when they rise, when they lie down, and when they walk along the way, basically at all times of the day and in all areas of life. Parents are to be passing along the faith, seeing everything that they do as an opportunity for discipleship. God's view of children. Contrary to our culture, and unfortunately even Christian culture, the Bible views children as a blessing. Behold, children are a heritage from the Lord, the fruit of the womb a reward. Like arrows in the hand of a warrior are the children of one's youth. Blessed is the man who fills his quiver with them. Psalm 127, 3-5. For many within our culture, children are an inconvenience and a distraction. A distraction from our careers, inconveniencing our plans, forcing us to change the lifestyle of luxury and self-indulgence we had planned for ourselves. Yet the word of the living God states that they are a blessing and a reward. Blessed is the young warrior who has a quiver full of arrows. One of my favorite preachers, Vodi Bakum, has 9 children, maybe more by now, and he has said that his intention is not merely for his children to be arrows, but he's hoping to raise up intercontinental ballistic missiles. And one day the silo is going to open and those missiles are going to be launched against the kingdom of darkness. But here's the thing. In order to make your child into the type of missile that will do some damage when fired, your child will need to have been raised and trained in a very particular way. My conviction is that this will require a robustly Christ-centered education. Jesus said, a disciple is not above his teacher, but everyone, when he is fully trained, will be like his teacher. If you read any literature today about youth discipleship, you'll learn very quickly that there is an epidemic of children abandoning the faith. Kids who are raised in ostensibly Christian households quickly abandon their former convictions when they reach adulthood. Now, given Jesus' statement, this really shouldn't shock us in the least. If we're going to send our children to Caesar to be educated, we should not be surprised when they come back as Romans. As I've covered in a previous post, the public education system is explicitly anti-Christian, and through the curriculum, it intends to produce secular humanists, also known as atheists. Education is discipleship. Let's try a thought experiment. Imagine a church in which everybody held a fully orbed biblical worldview. Children would not be seen as a burden, but as a blessing. Families then would open their homes to children, receiving them both from the hand of God as the blessing that they are, as well as fostering and adopting needy children who need a good home. Imagine all of those homes were Deuteronomy 6 homes, saturated in the Word of God, driven in all things by love for him and a desire to see his glory cover the earth as the waters cover the sea. Instead of sending their children to Caesar for their education, they would give them a fully Christ-centered education. Imagine this church community being one that shares these convictions, coming together for worship, all of them investing in one another, seeking to go and make new disciples, to disciple each other, and to be discipled themselves. This is the kind of church community that could transform their town. The means are really not complicated. By simply being a worshiping community centered on the Word of God, celebrating marriage and children, being faithful to disciple our children and disciple others. This is the kind of church that could see exponential growth and strike a blow against the kingdom of darkness. So to bring this full circle, having children is part of the strategy that God gave to the church to bring all things under the feet of Jesus. If God will grant them to us, we hope to welcome many more children into our home, and we will raise them to become intercontinental ballistic missiles. And we hope that the other members of our church will adopt the same mentality. The podcast Cross Politic has a tagline that I'd like to slightly modify in order to make it more biblical. If you're single, get married. If you're married, have kids. And if you have kids, raise them in the discipline and admonition of the Lord. This is a key part of the strategy, and it is my prayer that as the church grows in faithfulness in these ways, that we would see the kingdom grow, that Christ would have dominion from sea to sea and from the river to the ends of the earth, that we would see all his enemies brought under his feet in victory. Soli Deo Gloria.